John 16:33, where Jesus says, "These things I have spoken to you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." So Jesus essentially is promising us sadness, trials. It's a guarantee that we will have that. But he says, "I have overcome the world." So we can trust that he will overrule the trials that we go through. So I want to share a time in our lives when we experienced sadness. About 5 years ago, when our youngest boy was born, soon after he was born, he developed a very severe case of eczema, which is a skin disease. And it covered essentially his body, and it persisted for over a year. And it affected his development because he was so uncomfortable and miserable that he didn't develop like other children. So he was failing to thrive. And while we were dealing with that and sleepless nights and rocking him and praying and looking for different remedies from different doctors, Grace's dad was dying of cancer. And he was in San Diego, far away from Oregon. And there was a lot of stress, and she was far from her dad. And we even made a trip with Malachi down there while he was in his condition. And I just remember, the funeral, just rocking him while people are weeping, at the burial site. It just felt a very low time. And then also on top of that, I was working at a very stressful job. It took an emotional toll on me. We just had a lot of feelings of hopelessness and despair. We felt like there was no end in sight for our misery. And so then the devil keeps piling on you as you reach your physical and emotional limits. Then you start getting these ideas in your head about this will never change. But God came through in a very tangible way in our lives. We were reminded of many verses in the Bible that talk about how God will encourage us, like in 1 Corinthians 10:13. Where Paul writes, "No temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but will with the temptation make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it." Now, that verse really spoke to me because I knew that God would not let us experience more than we could handle. Because of God's grace, we can get through this. So that was very hopeful. Another verse that really spoke to me was in Hebrews chapter 12. And verse 11, where Paul writes, "Now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it." So here it says, we're disciplined by God for the purpose of making us better, for improving us so we can be fit for living eternally in heaven. So that gave us meaning that our trials, our sadness, had a purpose behind it. It wasn't just meaningless. And then obviously, anyone who's gone through trials knows the story of Job, right? How Job was basically put through a horrible set of tests through no fault of his own. And even he said, "Though God slay me, yet I will trust him." He didn't need to trust in God because God would deliver him. Even if he died, he would not give up his faith in God. And then another verse that I hung on to was in Philippians 4. This is a very well-known verse. "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." So we felt that. We felt a peace that we could not manufacture in ourselves. It was something that God gave us despite the trials we were going through. And another source of encouragement that God gave us was we had people who prayed for us. And even one lady told me how her granddaughter had a similar condition to what Malcolm had and how she recovered. So that gave us hope that there will be recovery. And then at one point we had him anointed to have that special prayer of healing for him. And soon after we got a breakthrough, we found a doctor up in OHSU who specializes in cases like this with little babies, and she gave us a whole regimen, and really he started to turn around. And then a friend of ours also told us about early intervention, which is a free service by the state that helps kids who are developmentally delayed. So Malcolm got free physical therapy, occupational therapy, something else.
A teacher.
So he caught up. It took a while, it took over a year, but he recovered, and we felt how God provided for our needs. While we were going through this, I was listening to the radio and I heard this really impactful hymn that it's not in our hymnal, but has anyone heard the hymn named "He Giveth More Grace"? I love that hymn, and I want to read a verse from it because it really just summarizes what I felt and the hope that God gives us. So the hymn, one of the verses says, "When we have exhausted our store of endurance, when our strength has failed before the day is half done, when we reach the end of our hoarded resources, our Father's forgiving is only begun." So when we're spent, God has unlimited resources to help us. And that goes back to another verse that we love in 2 Corinthians 12:9. And this is when Paul is writing about his own source of sadness, you could call it. He talks about a thorn in the flesh and how he asked God to heal him. And God didn't heal him. But God told him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." So we have strength from above. And to summarize, God's goodness is stronger than